Tea. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me just make sure we are good on Facebook and we are good on YouTube. So we are. Hello, 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 everybody. We are. Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, everybody, to Crisis, Currency, and Nations. Oh, I see you, Amari. You've made it. Yes. Okay. I am excited. We were having some technical difficulties, but we are here and we are going to get started with Crisis, Currency, Conversations. So I just wanted to make sure we were live on all platforms. So, hello, everybody. So I just wanted to make sure we were live. Let me make sure on all platforms. Okay, I had to make sure that I was out of that. Okay. Okay, everybody. I am making sure that we are here. And okay. My name's Vena Nelson. I run the L3 agency in Chicago. We are a marketing and communications firm. I am excited to bring you this second episode of Crisis, Currency, and Conversations. My reason for doing this was partly because I wanted to make sure that minorities and women of color are not left behind in this pandemic. I want to just take a deep breath. Whew. We had some technical difficulties, so I got to get myself ready. So if you are joining me for the first time, welcome, welcome. If this is the second episode, welcome again. Please join. We've got some amazing experts that's going to talk about what they're doing with their individual organizations. And then we're also going to talk about how we're going to build currency in this pandemic. So again, my name is Vena Nelson. I am the founder of the L3 agency, and thank you for joining in this afternoon, wherever you are, because we are tuning live on YouTube and on Facebook. So if you're outside of Chicago, we say hello, because this is our way to connect. And if you know me, I'm a connector. And so this is my way to connect to my community and to my tribe. The one thing I want to say is every day I ask myself, what brings me joy? And so I said I wanted to start off the live on what brings me joy. What brings me joy on Fridays is the fact that I get to come on live, connect with you, and bring you experts and various people, and we get to talk about how we're going to build currency. We all know that in the financial crisis of 2008, Airbnb was launched. We know that there was a business called 24-hour home care business was launched in 2008. And I'm making sure I'm saying one, that Airbnb is one that most people know, and then 24 home care was launched. And so what I want to make sure each week is that we start to see that our companies will be the promising businesses that will come out of this pandemic 2020. So stick with us. We do this every week. Share, subscribe, do whatever you need to be able to do to make sure that you stay informed. While I'm talking from Chicago, I am born and raised here. I care about my community. I care about the minority businesses here in Chicago. However, what I will tell you is that if you're listening from another city, it's all about building communities. And so who I'm about to bring on is part of my community, part of my network, and they've got some amazing information. So I'm going to bring them on in just a second. I'm going to bring in Vena Nelson, and then I've got a special guest, which is Amari Kamal. And these are my trusted partners. So please hold tight. They've got some incredible information. I want to remind you of a couple of things that I want to say before I bring Vena. Is for you all that live in Illinois, there was a hospitality emergency grant program that Governor Pritzker put out. There were several restaurants and hospitality companies that received those grants. Actually went to their website, saw there were familiar people. So I want to make sure that we understand that there were 12,000 businesses that applied in a lottery. It was a lottery, which was awesome. Bars and restaurants received an average grant of $14,000, while hotels received an average grant of $30,000. And those were independent hotels, and there were a few Hyatts. So I want to make sure that I start off with the people that are getting this, so that we understand that there are people that are actually getting money, and these are minority companies. I'm doing my research. Please do your research. But the word that I want to make sure is that we want to make sure that that more continues to grow. So we have some good news that I'm going to share. I'm real excited about this. So I am going to bring my, I consider her my sister, my friend, my business partner, my trusted partner, in on this. Her name is Vena Nelson. She is QuickBooks Intuit Certified Pro Advisor, CPA, and runs a firm here in Chicago, on the west side of Chicago. It's called Go Big Accounting. Let's welcome Vena to Crisis Currency conversation. Hey, Vena. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. So, you know, this is different from us, Vena, because typically I'm in your hot seat because I'm sitting down with you talking about numbers, talking about the business, and really working on that. So I want to make sure that I run your website so people can actually go to your website, connect with you, because you're going to give us a lot of great information while we talk. And so it's very different that I'm sitting over here interviewing my accountant. She is my accountant. She's my trusted partner. She's my comptroller, and she helps our business grow. And so I'm excited to have her on with me and to talk about it. So Vena, let's just get to the good stuff. And I say let's talk about the good stuff because, as you know, we know that the bill was passed. It was $320 billion in the payroll protection plan, and then there's $60 million that has been assigned for disaster loans. So I really want to, you know what, I'm diving right in because I know people are waiting, anxious. We've been talking about this, Vena. People have been, you know, hitting me like, oh, I can't wait to join this. So I'm going to dive right in because I know that people are going to spend their afternoon with us at 12 o'clock. And so I'm just taking me a little bit of tea because I need my tea. That brings me joy too. And so I want to talk about the difference of the PPP and the disaster loan. So if you can just help us understand that, I think it's a really good time for people to really understand the difference.
Okay, sure. All right, the first one, the economic injury disaster loan, that is being sponsored by the SBA, and you can apply for that loan for that loan on the SBA.gov website. And what's happening is the president has declared with the pandemic has declared the United States a national disaster, similar as when we had the flood in Katrina or some of the major storms, things that have happened. They've designated, FEMA has designated areas as disaster zones. So this is not a physical disaster, but the pandemic or the virus that has created it, and so they've created a disaster zone. So the funds for the relief funds here are being monitored or being distributed through SBA, and also I guess they're kind of connected with FEMA, but SBA is taking the lead. Now, this is different. They've never done it before. SBA typically is not in the business of distributing funds, and so it's a ramp up for them to be able to meet the needs of so many people. So they have a relatively simple application on their site on SBA.gov, and when you get there, you can search for economic injury disaster loan funds. And what it is that, yes, it is a loan. When you initially get it, it's a loan, but there is the opportunity for it to be forgiven. So if you use the funds for your business, number one, related to payroll, related to mortgage or rent, and also to utilities, it can be forgiven. So make sure that you don't pay cash for things, that you are well documented, so that those loans will be forgiven down the road. And the intent of that is to put money into business owners' hands to help them to survive this disaster that's going on and for them to spend it. Of course, they want you to primarily spend it on payroll.
Yeah.
That's the first one. Do you want me to go into the second one? But that is the EDIL that they've been referring to.
Okay. And then, and
So you
so,
don't need to go through a bank for that. You go to the SBA website and they will just put the money in your bank account. They really don't ask a lot of questions. A few people have gotten phone calls, but it just shows up.
okay. Okay. And I've heard of a few people that have actually got that $1,000, I think it is, that they
Mhm.
have received that into their bank account. And so let's talk. And so then the small business, I'm sorry, the payroll protection plan, which
Mhm.
I was just informed for those that are here. I don't know about you, but if you don't have an accountant that doesn't advocate for you, who doesn't support you, I'm not going to tell you to fire them. But what I will tell you is that I have one, and she's right here with me. She has advocated to make sure that we got the payroll protection plan. So we are excited. She just told me just about literally 5 minutes ago. So I've been waiting. I've been in the queue waiting. So I'm excited that we actually got our payroll protection program so that we can retain the staff that we do have that's on payroll. So that's exciting. So I'm really want to make sure that I tell people that it's really important that you are following through with this. So that's the kind of accountant that I have here who's helping my business and making sure that we have the proper documentations, because Vena, payroll protection, let's talk about relationships. Obviously, I have a relationship with PNC, but it was about your relationship with another bank, a smaller bank, that really helped to make this happen. So really talk about your relationship as, the executive of your firm and how you've been able to do that to help your clients.
Okay, I'm gonna try to make this quick and forgive me if I ramble a little bit, but this started that most of my clients are with major banks, and I typically recommend the Chases, the Bank of America, the BMO Harris, all of the big guys, because they have great service. And for us we need accountants, as we need to get into your account, see your information, to help with the record keeping, the efficiency for you guys to run your business, to set Zelle, to get payments, to get deposits quickly, to have all of these electronic means. The big banks do a great job. And sometimes it's a little more challenging with these smaller banks. But what I found in round one, this is the second PPP, the Payroll Protection Program initiative that they're doing. So they've done one, and this will be the second round that they recently voted on yesterday. I think it passed the House of Representatives yesterday. But the original one went out, and all of my clients got in early. We all did our paperwork, and then it was just silence from our banks. The only ones that actually got funded in round one were those that were with community banks. Almost everyone that applied with a community bank as a small African American owned business received their funding, their PPP funding. No one at the big banks got anything. And so I really got upset about that. I sat on a million webinars as everybody's talking about these PPP, get your people in, get your applications in. I thought we had all done the right thing, but we still ended up with nothing at the end of the day. The money was all gone, and I was pretty salty. It felt like the same old thing. That as there's an opportunity, those that really need the funds, our community, the banks had relationships with the bigger companies, the majority companies that they always do business with, and because it went through the banks, they were able to direct those funds and based on what they wanted to do, not what our community needs. And I really got salty because I'm looking at the news and I'm seeing that the death rate of the COVID-19 is really impacting my community, my clients. One of my clients died. Omari had a bout with it, and so it's close to me. I know people that have died or that are impacted, and I know businesses that are shut down. A lot of my clients, it is impacting them, and so our ability to collect fees and things like that. If they're out of business, it's hard pretty soon their accountant is going to be out of business too. So I noticed that happened, and I reached out to my state representative, Chris Welch, Emmanuel Chris Welch, who represents us. And I just was mad one day, and I just wrote and said, this isn't right. And since then, he has thrown me into the fires with this. And so we almost kind of have a big protest with our big banks. And so many people that I've talked to in the last week, have said this just isn't right. We've banked with these folks for years, and some people have relatively strong businesses and really got no response. They got silence from their larger banks. And so we are consciously going to make some efforts to deposit into community banks. And so Chris Welch asked that I work with Wintrust Bank, Chris Parker at Proviso Community Bank, and also with Seaway Bank. And both have been phenomenal, and both have really paid attention to their small businesses and made sure that their folks got funded. And so for the second round, we're trying to get as many applications in the queue. So when the SBA opens up, that our applications will go through first. So one other thing, I know I'm talking a lot, is that in this round, our Black elected officials got a little more savvier. They've gotten feedback from what happened in round one, and they negotiated or made sure that it's not just the open pool and first come first serve, and that there goes the money. They specifically targeted some of that money only to be spent by small community banks and CDFIs. So that is helpful because now the Seaways, the Wintrust, your local community bank won't get pushed to the side because of the big boys
Yeah.
taking it up faster, having more efficient systems. Their computer systems can get in. They have relationships, all of that kind of stuff, which excluded us. So I have been working day and night. I've been getting a ton of phone calls because now my name is out there and I am just helping people. And so I'm not really charging clients to get to help them with their application. It's really benefiting the bank because, again, I'm going to say accounting is hard, time consuming, tedious, and can result in costly mistakes if done wrong. And so we struggle a little bit in our community with the paperwork and trying to have that appropriate. And so what the bank is seeing that they're having, like a high error rate. So they say, hey, Vena, if you help, to vet the applications, talk with the owners a little bit and get everybody in line. And then when the applications come to us, that would be beneficial. So, that's what I've been doing for the last 2 days. And I have literally lived in my office day and night. Only one person cussed me out for calling them at 3 o'clock in the morning. I apologize because it really was wrong. You get so wound up. You're talking to so many people. And then another thing that happened is that you really need to think about establishing a legal payroll. A lot of people pay independent contracts, write checks on Friday, no paycheck, no payroll company attached to it. And that really hurt a lot of us. And even for those that had payroll, maybe they had 2 or 3 people on payroll, everybody else is an independent contractor or gets a 1099.
And I'm getting some feedback. And so that's part of the reason why it's important that, and that was one of my questions of should solopreneurs really start doing, I think I asked this, start putting themselves on payrolls. If solopreneurs should start this, because obviously we're talking about creating currency. Should they start doing that right now?
Yes, but I think that it's some level of discipline. I don't recommend doing it before you're ready because the fees and the fines of not doing it correctly are horrible. And I would also say use a third-party payroll service. I like Gusto.
Gusto? Yes.
They're online. In my opinion, probably at least 2/3 the price of a ADP or Paychex, but they provide good service, I think.
They do.
So I like them, but I really don't care if it's ADP, if it's Paychex, whoever you choose, Sure Payroll, it's okay because all of them create the documentation that you need in order to level up your company. But one other thing I want to add quickly is that if we get a payroll and we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 employees, we think we're doing fantastic. You notice the language of a small business is anybody up to 500 employees.
Right.
So when banks are looking at doing a loan and they can do one loan for someone that has, $2 million worth of payroll. And of course, they're getting, a percentage of that from the government for processing that loan. It's easy to do that one loan versus doing, 100 of our loans at, $20,000 a piece or $10,000 a piece. I can do one loan. It's just a resource thing. So I understand sometimes why the banks go to the big. It's just business. It's more profitable. And so I say that to say we have got to begin to think collectively as to how do we work together and how does 10 accounting firms work together. And we have one payroll and now we've had 100 employees on our payroll versus all of us independently having 1 or 2 employees, 5 employees. It's just not scalable.
Absolutely.
And so thinking about our structure as a community, how do we better prepare so we know that something else is going to happen? and we know that it's going to be predicated on some kind of a payroll. How do we prepare so that we're in a stronger position than our small onesie twosie companies? And I looked through those applications, probably 80% of them, we probably edited the amount that they thought they were available for the loan.
Yeah.
The common mistake was that I got payroll and I got independent contractor. Let me add them all together. That's not, the paycheck protection is only protecting the paycheck, not the independent contractor. So.
And I think, and it's perfect timing that I'm going to introduce Amari, who you've collaborated with to help.
Yeah, let me just say that as the phone calls started coming and we got overwhelmed, Amari was the first person that I called, and he helped to get our Google Drive so we can share information, where we at, whose documents have received, who's been taken care of, and just his encouragement when we want to keep pushing. He's like, "No, Vena, stop, go to bed, get some rest. It will be there tomorrow. We'll be fine, and we'll be stronger. We'll be more alert." So I really value his friendship, and he's a great accountant. So, Amari.
And I get to bring in my buddy, Amari.
Hey.
Hey, Amari.
Oh my God, I love you both. Hey.
We love you too.
We love you too,
Oh,
Amari.
man.
We know you've had to battle this COVID. So to
yeah.
have you here with us is a blessing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a blessing to be with you,
And so, Amari, talking about collaboration, talking about small business, you're one of my trusted partners. You refer business. So I want to make sure everyone who's tuning in, this is what my network looks like. So I want to make sure everyone's clear that the things that I do is not me, that I have an incredible network of advisors who advise me in my business. And quite frankly, they're good at what they do, and I'm good at what I do, and I'm clear about it. So there's no blurred lines over here of that. But the one thing that I will say is that for both of you all, I appreciate you both for joining in today. And so, Amari, I want to, come specifically to talk to you because you have vast experience in working with small businesses. And as I mentioned, I posted this recently that the word small business needs to be shifted. There needs to be micro business, then it's small business and enterprise business. I have said that I'm looking for a policy change because I believe that word small personally should never be used. That's just me. I don't want to be a small business. I want to be an enterprise company. So, and so, Amari, I definitely want you to share, what you have seen as a trend and as an opportunity for minority businesses to really step up, because you have a very diverse background, and you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and it's perfect what you said, because, I actually started off my career as an investment advisor. So the first half of my career was spent working with really wealthy people and on how to best invest their money, and likewise working with companies and helping them to raise capital and to organize their structures in such a way that they could meet more of these wealthy folk. And then when the market crashed the first time back 2001, 2, 3, and I shifted more to working with small business owners and helping them to raise capital, I really got to see both sides of the coin. I got to see how, like you said, small businesses really make that transition to an enterprise level. And that's really what I built my practice around. So I only work with businesses that are trying to do what you just said, scale their operations, grow to that enterprise level, build out span of control, raise money to do that. And how I connected with my dear friend Vena is that, in order to do that, you have to have some appreciation and ability to be able to work with people on the accounting side. So that's, where we kind of make our money primarily en route to helping them grow and expand. But I'm with you all the way. Ultimately, it comes down to language and and how we relate to ourselves and how do we refer to ourselves, and calling ourselves small business owners really kind of creates this self-fulfilling prophecy for being small and continuing to stay small and thinking small. And we never allow ourselves to expand to or inquire into what would it be like to be $1 billion enterprise. What would that take to really break $100 million in sales? Could I bootstrap it? Could I just profit a little bit and then put those profits into my investments? Or will I need to get investors at some point? Will I need to think about my banking relationships and partnerships?
Yeah.
And I believe that this crisis is reminding us, or maybe just teaching us for the first time, what it is to really have capital at our disposal. Because, I would say we're tremendously blessed by these programs, because generally speaking, typically speaking, when you need the money is the absolute worst time to try to get it. And
Absolutely.
mostly, we as business owners, we think about capital as an afterthought. In Vena, people think about accountants as an afterthought too. Like, when I get some money, when I get something to count, then I hire an accountant. So, like, come on, really?
Yeah.
So it's the craziest thing in the world, but it's putting what we really are after in the running of our businesses in our faces in a new way. And for that, I'm grateful for.
And I think it's a matter, Amari, and I do ask this question about, why are so many minority business underfunded? And I know you've really touched on that, and underfunded. Is it lack of education? Is it the fact that we don't trust ourselves? Is it a matter of we don't trust ourselves? Like, why are we so underfunded? And so, really understanding that, so that we can push past that and we can create that currency. Because I'm here because what I know is that Forbes put out a report in 2008, and they listed all the promising businesses that were launched as a result of that financial crisis. So I know they're going to do the same for 2020. And so knowing that they're going to do that, and how can we make sure our businesses are properly funded to be on that promising list? And that list, so I want to be clear, there was a 24-hour home care, which you guys may have never heard of it. So it can be a business you've never heard of. It can be that. And I want you to speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's definitely a lack of awareness, a lack of education, and even a lack of trust, but not from, I think, the place where people mostly think about it. So when I first started as an investment advisor in my early 20s, and I'm just a little black boy from the south side of Chicago. And when somebody handed me a $10,000 check to say, okay, here, manage this for me. And at 23, 24 years old, wow, this is more money than I've ever had, ever. And I had to deal, and when I got my first commission check off of that, I realized, like, oh, that's not a lot of money at all. And there was an existential shift, because back in those days, they tracked your average sale, your average trade in investments. And so there was an existential shift. I mean, just being a financial advisor, just asking somebody, hey, look, give me $10,000 to manage of yours. Give me $25,000 to manage of yours. $50,000, $100,000, $1 million. There's a self-reflection that happens in that moment. How we relate to ourselves is directly connected with the level, the type of business that we're able to grow, and all of our backgrounds and everything that we've experienced in life all goes into that. And I think we as a people have been dealing with what we've been dealing with, that which is exclusive to us, to Black folk, for so long. There is I hate to say it this way, but a real accustomedness we've developed to struggling, and it becomes its sort of own animal at a certain point. And so that's really the trend that I see. And so it's not really, it's trust, yes, but it's deeper than that, in the sense of just a really deep and abiding lack of belief. Like, really, I can grow to this level?
Yeah.
I can do that, really? Yeah. And to your earlier point, and Vena kind of touched on this as well, this is the power of power. This is the power of positive partnerships, because, if you don't know it, I know it for you. If you don't believe it, I believe it for you. And something magical happens in those interactions, where people begin to see new possibilities that just weren't even conscious to before. And then once you know it's present, and this is what I love about the work that we do, Vena, is that working with people like you, Larvetta, and other visionary leader types, you know, when that light goes on and you can see the gap for where you are now versus where you want to be, you all have magical abilities to go and close that gap and get to that next level of development that you just didn't see was possible before. So I think in our community, we've lacked, there's certain things, Larvetta, Vena, that you can't learn in graduate school. You can't learn by reading a book. You can't you definitely can't learn on Google. You know, somebody has to just grab you by the collar and say, come here, young buck, let me show you how this thing goes. And we just haven't had that type of generational mentorship, great advice, great counsel sort of infrastructure in place to really propel us to that next level. And that's what I think the major culprit is.
And we're going to take questions shortly. So they just reminded me that if you have any questions, please ask questions you have to, I think, amazing leaders in the space of financial and accounting, and who really get real about really who you are and what you want to represent in your business. And I do think that that's a fundamental thing as a business owner. So if you have questions, please go ahead and post them, and we'll ask the questions here. Vena, you know, you are woman, woman of color. What, for you, has that been helpful to be able to help minority businesses, you know, lead in an area that, you know, obviously is not, you know, women are at the bottom in most industries, right? Besides probably beauty, we're probably not there in that regard, but around that, how, as you talk to women of color who are tuning in, who have businesses, you know, you being a woman of color as an advisor, how has that helped you to help women of color companies?
I think when I am talking with other Black-owned businesses, I absolutely have no trouble whatsoever. I am confident in what I do. I have been doing it, grinding the detail for years. I've seen a whole bunch of stuff, and I just do it all day long, every day. So when I begin to talk with other business owners about their business, I know their financials probably, you know, I can sum it up very quickly. You know, I can have a 5-10 minute conversation with you, and I really know, you know, where you are and what your pain points are. So I think it's just everybody, whatever it is your talent is, honing your talent, working when nobody is looking, and trying to stay up to date. And so when people call me and they need help, I haven't seen it one time. I've probably seen it thousands of times. And so hopefully the advice that we provide is helpful. I'm always trying to make sure that there's timeliness and accuracy in the work that we do. It's so much demand out there. The timeliness can be challenging for me to keep up with everybody. And I just don't say no to new business right now. But there's some strong Black women out there, and I love working with them. And I think that I'm not trying to run their companies. I just love to be a part of their team. And from the financial perspective, I try to guide and make sure that they don't fall off a cliff because of anything financial, that they can just make their vision, their dreams happen. And I'm watching the financials, making sure that part of the boat is stable.
Nice. Let's talk about collaboration. You know, I do think it's important right now in this crisis that we collaborate. We collaborate more. And, you know, I believe in that as one of our business models here, is that if we hire more solopreneurs to work for us, it allows for us to expand our business. And so, Amari, how important is it for, you know, minority businesses to collaborate right now, like right this minute, like this, get your journals out and really make that list of people that can help that you can collaborate with, that can help you to make that $1 billion, you know, business.
Yeah. It's absolutely mission critical. There is no more important thing, in my opinion, than finding out ways to collaborate. And collaborating has a number of different dimensions to it. I mean, you know, there's mostly what people are going to think about when you say collaboration is outside networking and making sure that you're aligning yourself with great advisors and very great consultants and great partners even, and that's critical as well. But then there's also the collaboration that you have with your staff, and then there's collaboration with your vendors as well. And all of those things play a part. So but the groups aside, there's just a general spirit, I believe, of collaboration that needs and wants to be there, because there's in business there's strategy, and then there are tactics, and the strategy has to be born of some perspective, and if you're somebody who's, and I'm talking to you all, but I'm talking to myself too, because I'm guilty of this as well. If you're somebody who's constantly behind the wrench, so to speak, if you're constantly, as they say, working in your business versus on your business, that's a key indicator of that. You're not you're not coming from a place of collaboration. You don't quite understand. You don't quite get that in order to do what it is that you dream most of doing, it's going to take people. It's going to take you being able to delegate. It's going to take you having a vision of your business beyond just you, that you're actually actively at work on, as opposed to making excuses for why I can't be that way right now. So continually challenging yourself to expand, to grow, asking yourself, who else can do this as well or better than I can? I know there's someone out there, and continuing to engage your circle in a way, asking those tough questions. When you talk to people on the phone, like really being honest with them, like, hey, look, how are things going? I'm struggling right now. Not to complain, but you're looking, if you're sure how your business is supposed to work, why aren't you where you want to be? So you want to be, if you don't have a bunch of questions about how to get to your next milestone in business, then I just don't know what you're thinking about. And what you want to have the people around you for is helping to answer those tough questions. So now more than ever. So, there's a lot I can say about that, but it's just to answer your question, it's absolutely critical.
I think it is, and it's something that we suffer with, right? This is mine. This is my business. I don't want to share it with somebody else. I don't want someone, and we've got to get to a place where, I think this crisis has taught us, if you got payroll, you're going to get considered for the payroll. But if you just working on you're going to get a little something, but you ain't going to get everything, right? So we're going to give you a little something, but we're not going to give you everything you have that you need to run your company. So I do think that's, and I'm big on collaboration. Like I'm big on it. I think it's an important fundamental core competency of the business. And so, as we wrap up on this, and I say this, your health is we say this, your health is your wealth. And so for both of you all, Vena and Amari, let's talk through right now, what healthy steps should minority businesses do during this crisis? Now, I know for you, Vena, you are a pro advisor, bless you, for QuickBooks.
That was a sneeze, not a cough. Not a cough.
Okay. I'm sorry. But still, let me say,
no, Vena.
But
Really?
bless you. Because what I figured out is that even when you sneeze at the grocery store, nobody says bless you. I was like, oh, bless you. Bless you. It's like laughing. It's like sneezing and coughing is like, oh my gosh, what just happened? It's like an earthquake. So what healthy steps should minority companies start doing right now? And for you, Vena, you are a pro advisor for Intuit. Is it starting with QuickBooks Online? Is it, what healthy steps right now in this crisis? Because what we have to understand is that the part that they're missing is that we have to stay healthy, right? That's the message. Stay safe, stay healthy. So what does healthy look like in our financial, in building our financial plan for our businesses? Is that setting up a QuickBooks? I don't know.
The first thing that I would say is, call your accountant earlier than later. Call them before it's a hot mess or the IRS has called you.
But what if you don't have an accountant? Should they call you? And Amari, I just want to be clear, so the people that's watching, they may not have that.
You should call them and do some level of consultation as to where you are right now, whether or not you're going to engage them and keep them going. You should have the conversation with them. If you do not have an accountant on your team, I think that's a problem. And you just have to figure out what you can afford, but have some kind of relationship so that you can call someone and go over, some of the critical issues that's going on in your business, and at least get some advice. You may try to handle it on your own, but get the advice. And I just think that there are lots of Black accountants that care about your business and want to make sure that you are okay. And maybe you can't get the Cadillac service, but you can call me, at 6 o'clock in the evening, and I'll try to answer some of your questions. You can shoot me an email, and I'll respond to you. Maybe you're gonna have to do a little more of the legwork yourself, but um, talking with a professional and getting professional advice is you just can't beat it. And even if you go and execute the steps, at least you're executing the right step versus you making up your layman's non-accounting version of how you think this thing should work, and just creating all kind of mess. And then what happens is that once your company has gone off the rails, then you call the accountant when you really have a big job to clean up and very little funds because you've kind of run your business into the ground. Call early. Again, just like getting a loan, call when you don't need it. Call the accountant when you don't need them. Call the attorney when you don't need them, because now your stuff is simple, but they'll give you advice so that you don't make bad choices.
Yeah. And so I just put on the screen for those that got to your website, they can go. And so if you don't have an accountant, here are people. Like, there's a point where it's not a shortage, right? It's a matter of, what can I do right now? If I don't have an accountant, here's two that I know of. If they are and one thing about Vena and Amari, if they can't help you or is unable, they're going to direct you to someone that can. So that,
let me do say, we will help people that are in financial distress and potentially cut our prices. But when you go to a white accountant or a white attorney, you really just don't ask the question. You pay the bill. But then when we can't provide the level of service that they provide, you want to judge us. So if you want me to have the professional getting your stuff done, timeliness is important, but it would be easier if I get paid well enough that I could hire 2 or 3 staff persons to help, and then I wouldn't have to be here all night. And it's this balance of, I want to expand my staff, but I also want to be careful because I know these are delicate Black-owned business, and if I can just help you stay alive for another day, out of the hundreds of customers that I work, somebody's going to become the golden star. I just need one person to just blow up and become that next business that's a household name, and then my career is okay. I don't know who it's going to be. So there are a lot of us that just look like, suspect. But you gotta work with them, and you never know at what point a business owner gets really serious about their business, or has a right meeting or makes the right contact, that all of a sudden, that low level mom and pop just go to the top. You just never can predict. And by being there to encourage and to advise, I just think it's invaluable what I do. Do I get paid well for it? Maybe not. And when the pandemic happens and their doors are shut and they're not making any money, not only do they take pay cuts, typically me and Omari may be taking a pay cut too. We don't just say, well, I did the work, pay me. We try to time, at least I try to work with the timing. Like, when things get better, okay, can you catch me up? And most people are good to us, but I just think we both provide some invaluable service, and it's just something that people seem to be intimidated with. IRS representations, lawyer representations. I defend my clients to anybody, and I want to make sure that we put your numbers in the best light possible for you. We're not lying. We're not making up. There's no level of disintegrity. There's always integrity in what we do, but we understand the numbers to frame them in the best position for your company. And then if you have an accountant with some level of integrity, they're going to defend those numbers with your banker, with your lender, with the IRS, with whomever. And again, I get a lot of work because of people not happy with their accountants. Whatever, as a Black professional, you really gotta hone your skills. And if you're going to charge somebody for it, you got to try to. And I mean, we all make mistakes. Things are changing. You never know the right answer, but you got to try your best to give good advice to your client, because you hire an accountant does not mean you have a quality person. So I like CPAs. That just tells me there's some level of competency.
Yeah, that's thank you for that, Vena. I think it was helpful. Somebody said, preach, we don't ask for discounts from
Amen.
So I want to say you preaching over there. So I want to go to Amari and just talk about what specifically can we be doing, what healthy steps can we be doing as minority-owned businesses to ensure that we are advancing during this crisis? What should we be doing right now?
Yeah, well, just to tag on to what Vena was just saying, first of all, just really do some reflecting on what your core team consists of. I one of the conversations that I have with business owners early on is, look, if you've been in business for longer than a couple of years, you're pretty good at going out and getting business. You're pretty good at selling yourself, marketing yourself, but also you're pretty good. You have a good product. You have a good service as well, because, that sometimes performing bad business, to Vena's last point, is even more detrimental than not having a client or a customer in the first place. So if you've been going for a while, you're pretty good in those two fundamental areas. But what we find that people are often just absolutely horrible at is what I call the third rung of business. I don't care what business you're in, marketing agency, manufacturer, whatever. There's getting the business, there's doing the business, but then there's running the business. And most business owners, just small business owners, are absolutely, just the running the business piece is absolutely non-existent, because you're just so focused on, I need to get some, I need to finish what I already have, I need to get some, I need to finish what I already have. Like Vena said, we don't usually get calls until either A, you run out of money, B, the IRS is knocking, or C, you're just burned out and you're like, okay, I know I made some money somewhere, but I don't know where it's went. Is somebody stealing from me? No, you're not managing effectively. And so, look, there's data, then there's information, then there's knowledge, and then there's wisdom. Kind of like what I said before, what ultimately has our business successful is if there's something that we've learned, there's some piece of wisdom that we've gained over the years that ultimately creates that marginal difference in our business versus anybody else that we would consider to be a competitor. That specialized knowledge. But how you get there is month after month, quarter after quarter, year after year, taking those numbers, gleaning the lessons from them, having somebody to bounce those lessons off of to make sure that you learned what you're supposed to learn. And over time, you develop that wisdom necessary to build those enterprise businesses that we were talking about earlier. So yes, there's what Vena was saying in terms of develop your platform, develop your system, work with someone you trust. And the only thing I would add to that is really begin to think through what your strategy is going to be coming out of this. What do I want? I mean, all of our businesses are having to go through some level of reinvention at this point, whether it be, dealing with the quarantine, introducing technology. How do we make sure that we're insulated against this next time? What are my goals over the course of the next year? And how do I begin to take actions on those day after day, week after week, month after month with my team to make sure that I'm really following a plan as opposed to just throwing everything against the wall, seeing what sticks.
And I think that that's important. So one of the things that I want to make sure that we do is just for the sake of folks that are, tuning in for the first time, I just want to just really recap that I've had Vena Nelson here from Go Big Accounting. I have Amari here, who is a small business advisor and community capital tax and accounting firm here in Chicago. The one thing that I want to say that I don't know that I said is that, at the front end is, we got money, right? We were able to get money, but I want to add that the reason why we were able to get money through one of the loans, and then Vena just announced that we got the payroll protection, is because of this network. It's because I have this network in place. My books, we're solid on getting that together. And so really taking the time to make sure that you can do that and begin that. So I wanted to reiterate that. As we close, I know they told me we've got a few more minutes. Anything that you guys want to add as we close on this to let people know what they can do right now? Real quick. if you can share that, Vena, and then I'll go to Amari, and then we'll sign off.
Do I have anything? Apply for the PPP, get a payroll, apply for any loans that may be available for your company. Use this time to, like Amari says, have a plan, a strategy for how you're going to come out of it.
Excellent. Amari.
Inside of that strategy piece that we're talking about, I saw a question from Mr. Anderson. He said from a tax perspective, what's your thoughts on Roth IRAs, solo K, 401k, SUP IRAs? Those are all retirement accounts that small business owners can use to great advantage to fund their wealth building. I invite, inside of your planning, your strategy that you're building, to really think through what what I'm going to call your real objectives are. Like, what do you really want for your life? I mean, yeah, we might love our businesses, but that's not our whole lives. What do you want for your family? When do you want to be financially free or retire? What do you want? What kind of legacy do you want to leave financially? Who do you want to contribute to? What institutions do you want to contribute to over the course of your life? And make it your business with your trusted financial advisor or whomever you trust in that regard to see that connection. I find that most business owners don't see the connection between their wealth plan and their business plan. And how do you connect those? To what degree does my business need to grow such that my real life objectives are funded? So all of those are tools for funding that wealth plan, and they only become relevant once you have that.
Yes, that's good, Amari. Thank you for closing with that. Thank you, Vena. I appreciate you. I know you've been working all night, literally. You really literally showed up today to take a break from your clients to be here with us. And I know y'all took a break.
Good luck with that. She ain't breaking. She ain't taking no breaks, but it's a nice gesture, nice thought.
This was like a lunch break, I guess. It was a lunch break to be able to come in with us and to talk with us. So I just say thank you to you both. I appreciate you both for coming on and sharing your expertise and just being great. I'm grateful for that. So I thank you all for tuning in. Come back to episode 3 next Friday. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're on Facebook, thank you for all my Facebook friends that have tuned in. I appreciate you. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the connection that you've been able to do on this. I promise you, I'm going to bring amazing people to the table. I promise you that is my intent, is to do that. I thank you all for joining with me with Crisis Currency Conversations. I'll see you all on next week. And get that plan together. I love y'all. See ya next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys. We are done. We are done.